How can we solve the British housing crisis? Today, I'm joined by Marc von Grundherr, who is a director at Benham Reeves, who are big estate letting agents in London. Marc, what's the answer to the British housing crisis? Talk to me.
So the first thing I think we have to be clear is we have 100,000 too few homes a year being built. So one of the things that we had over the last 40, 50 years has been social housing being sold in the right to buy. I think that's the first thing. If I was sitting in Keir Starmer's shoes, I would be abolishing right to buy. We cannot keep selling social stock and not replacing it, or replacing 1 in 20 or whatever ridiculous number. You need to stop that. And I agree that's not fair for the poor people sitting there, but they have to think when they've bought it, there's nowhere for the next person to come in. So first thing, abolish the right to buy. I think that's absolutely needs to be done. And councils and housing associations should be working much closer with developers, and they should be part of the planning process. I see some really good developments going on in London where it's owned by social housing. They knock down the first block and they put up a new private block on that block, which is sold. That extra profit is shared between developer and the local council, so you can build new optimized housing. You know, because a lot of the social housing stock hasn't been touched. Let's be honest, councils don't have any money. So they haven't been able to even maintain the stock, which is in terrible state. So you need to be not only building more, you need to be investing in existing stock. I mean, these programs that go on about rogue landlords not maintaining, there's councils that don't maintain, no heating, no hot water. And that's pretty shocking. So I think, number one, abolish, as I said, right to buy. I think that should be abolished until we're on a much better footing. Secondly, we should be encouraging councils to co-develop alongside developers. And I'm not just talking about the top 5, 10 developers in the UK. I'm talking about small and medium developers. We should be doing far more. Small and medium developers, I understand, only build about 15% of the housing stock. New housing that's coming on. Why are they not building 50%? Because, you know, we should be driving them to do more smaller 20, 30, 40 home developments that give some extra stock to social. You know, why would you have some of the housing associations doing developments and selling all the stock? You know, when they're getting gifted stock by developers or done at a very low price, that should go into the rental market, the social rental market. And you know, 100,000 homes we're not building enough a year.
And it's 100,000 every year.
Every year it just builds up. 10 years, it's 1 million homes. So that, if you were putting investment into the social stock, and again, where does that money come from? The only place that money should come from is from what developers are doing. I'm not saying tax developers, but I'm saying work alongside them so the money goes into social stock. You see many developments like regeneration and placemaking schemes where a half of the stock is social housing of one form or another. But that's still not enough. And if you look at what's going on in the market, we're only encouraging build to rent, big corporate investors. That housing is for expensive brand new housing. That's not for social tenants. And so all you end up seeing is councils forced to pay huge rents for that kind of stock if they have to put people into private housing. If you were investing that money into letting overseas investors come in, that will mean more stock would get built if you didn't tax overseas investors so much. And there are things you can do to make them stay long term. Reduce the capital gains tax if someone owned a property over 20 years. If you did that, you'd encourage long-term ownership. If you had a small tax break, not a big tax break, keep a tenant for 10 years and you don't pay this, or you get this benefit. There are things you can easily do, little steps, but at the moment, it's all councils do their own thing. There's no overarching body who's looking at saying, this guys are doing it really well. What are they doing right? These guys are not building any. What are they doing wrong? So that you can properly try to bring more housing in to the social sector.
So you're almost doing social build to rent.
Should do. I genuinely feel if you have a big developer building 1,000 homes and a third of those are going into social, 350 homes, that should be a social rent. You should have social rent. And a lot of people are put off by social rent in a new development, in a large development, because they say, oh, the type of people you get in social rent. What they found from studies over the years is when they started to integrate it, people take care and they love their homes. They're not, awful people. They need to be in that development. So the costs are shared. And actually, I see that in these large developments where you've got social rented housing, but the council should not be allowed to sell that. The council should be forced to hang on to it. What they should be targeted by governments, not just to have more stock. They should be targeted if you've got 10,000 social homes at the moment. Every year you should be adding 5% on, 2% on, 10% on something, on not net negative, which is you're still seeing today. And that primarily is in expensive areas, right in central London. Of course, if you have a council home and you can buy it for a discounted price, it's going to be worth more money. And so I really feel that's an area that, it's very unpopular to talk about, but I think it's a huge issue. Because if not, you're going to have them all renting from the private sector and they're going to be paying private sector rents.
Please put your thoughts in the comments whether you agree or disagree with Mark. Mark, thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much.